In 1784, the German philosopher Immanuel Kant defined the Enlightenment as man's leaving his self-caused immaturity, whereas earlier periods had been handicapped by the inability to use one's intelligence without the guidance of another. The Enlightenment was undoubtedly influenced by the scientific revolution. They believed that if Isaac Newton could discover the natural laws regulating the world of nature, they too, by using reason, could find the laws that governed human society. The Enlightenment was not the preserve of any one class, although the common people were little affected by the Enlightenment as its greatest appeal was to the aristocracy. Although the publication and sales of books and treatises were crucial to this process, the salon was also a factor. They were elegant drawing rooms in the urban houses of the wealthy, where philosophers and guests were invited to engage in witty conversation that often centered around the ideas of philosophers. Coffee houses, cafes, reading clubs, and public lending libraries were also places in which the Enlightenment ideas stirred. The greatest scientists of the 17th century, including Galileo and Newton, had pursued their work in the spirit of promoting God, not undermining Christianity. But as scientific knowledge spread, more educated people began to question religious truths. This is known as New Skepticism. Travel literature. In the course of the 17th century, traders and missionaries and medical practitioners and explorers began to publish an increasing number of travel books that exposed people to many different cultures. For instance, James Cook's discovery of the Pacific island of Tahiti and of New Zealand and Australia. For some intellectuals, the existence of exotic peoples presented an image of, quote, natural man, who was happier than Europeans. The idea of a noble savage, the concept of a wild human who has not been corrupted by civilization, would play an important role in the political work of some philosophers. The travel literature of the 17th and 18th century also led to the realization that there were highly developed civilizations with different customs in other parts of the world. European intellectuals began to evaluate their own civilization relative to others. This is known as cultural relativism. Enlightenment philosophers came from both the nobility and the middle class, and a few stemmed from even lower origins. Although it was truly international and a cosmopolitan movement, the Enlightenment also enhanced the dominant role being played by French culture, as Paris was its recognized capital, and most leaders of the Enlightenment were French. The French intellectuals, in turn, affected intellectuals everywhere, and created a movement that engulfed the entire Western world. The philosophers' call for freedom of expression is a reminder that their work was done in a time of censorship, and that they were not free to write whatever they chose. State censors decided what they could and could not publish, and protests from any number of government bodies could result in the seizure of books and the imprisonment of the authors, publishers, and sellers. The philosophers found ways to get around state censorship. Some published under pseudonyms, anonymously, or even abroad, especially in Holland. John Locke. Locke believed in tabula rasa, or that all people are born with a blank slate, suggesting that all humans are neither innately good or bad, but that their behavior is a result of their upbringing. Locke also adopted the idea of social contract theory to form the basis of what he considered to be a legitimate government. He believed that everybody had the right to life, liberty, and property. Sound familiar? If the government infringed upon the rights of their people, then the people had the right to rebel. Montesquieu. He distinguished three kinds of governments: republics, which are suitable for small states and based on citizen involvement; monarchies, which are appropriate for middle-sized states and grounded in the ruling class's adherence to law; and a despotism, appropriate for large empires and dependent on fear to inspire obedience. He also believed in the importance of checks and balances, created by a means of separation of powers. This influenced the American system we have today of three branches: the executive, legislative, and judicial. Voltaire was especially well known for his criticism of traditional religion and his strong attachment to the idea of religious toleration. He especially believed in deism, or the belief in the existence of a supreme being, specifically of a creator who does not specifically intervene in the universe. Diderot was completely opposed to Christianity, claiming it was fanatical and unreasonable. It was his life's purpose to change the general way of thinking. He contributed to the Enlightenment by creating a 28-volume encyclopedia, or classified dictionary of sciences, arts, and trades. As time went on, the price was drastically reduced, increasing its sales and making it available to doctors, clergy, teachers, lawyers, and military officers. The ideas of the Enlightenment were spread even further as a result. Rousseau's beliefs stem in the idea of natural state of humanity. He believed that humans, in their primitive condition, were happy, and there were no laws, no judges, and all people were equal. To preserve their private property, people adopted laws and governors. In doing so, they rushed headlong, not into liberty, but into chains. Government was an evil, but a necessary one. Rousseau tried to harmonize individual liberty with governmental authority. The social contract was an agreement on part of the entire society to be governed by the general will. Mary Astle argued that women needed to become better educated. In later work, Astle argued for equality of the sexes without marriage. Oh no. Mary Astle argued that women needed to become better educated. In a later work, she even argued for equality of the sexes within marriage. Mary Wollstonecraft was reviewed by many as the founder of modern European feminism. She disagreed with many Enlightenment thinkers' idea of women. To argue that women must obey men, she said, was contrary to the beliefs of the same individuals that a system based on the arbitrary power of monarchs over their subjects was wrong. She argued that the Enlightenment was based on an ideal of reason innate in all human beings. If women have a reason, they are entitled to the same rights that men have.